if you want to have your employees feel proud about your space, feel that they own the space, they are going to activate the things that you think was going to work for them, why would you think that that process would not involve the people?
Welcome from Manila. My name is Edward Musiak. I'm the CMO for Paperspace Asia. This is the second of our podcasts where strategy meets design. And I'm here talking to Paperspace Asia's CEO, Narita Cheah. And we're going to talk about how the company's evolved, how the business has evolved, and how the demands, more importantly, how the demands of clients have changed over the years. And probably the most important thing we'll focus on is where we see the future, where Narita sees the future going and how we're adapting to that, how we help our clients, and how design and workplace strategy actually solves real life business problems. Welcome to Manila.
Thank you, Ed. Good morning from Metro Manila. It's so exciting to be back again. Be here meeting with partners, with landlords, with tenants, with clients. It's just been really, really exciting coming back and seeing this city continue to grow on the wider landscape of sort of the regional growth that we're seeing across Southeast Asia.
So let's expand on that. I mean, your role encompasses multiple countries in Asia, and you're looking in Southeast Asia, and you're looking at expanding out to other countries. I've always seen CEOs, the challenges CEOs face as much as running a business. I mean, that's hard enough. But you're also having to deal with a changing landscape, different demands from clients, and looking forward, where should the company go? So maybe we could start by you telling us a little bit about the start of Paperspace. What was the niche that you thought was good at that time to fill, that you wanted to fill, and what you wanted to provide at that particular time? And let's talk about how that's progressed.
Right. So maybe before we talk about how we started and how we progressed, maybe the beginnings of the idea of Paperspace really started when I tried to semi-retire for the second time in my career and failed miserably. And obviously, I was very much sort of privileged to the world of the corporate design world, the corporate real estate world, and there were opportunities to pursue that. But I think 9 years ago, when I came together with Sombat, our co-founder, it was the most exciting idea, this idea that it was an opportunity for design studios to perhaps, be different in the sense that you didn't have to start a new practice, be a small studio and do small things. Collectively, as a partnership and as a group, we had all the wealth of experiences delivering the biggest tech, the biggest financial institutions. So we had this crazy idea of coming together as a team, banding together with different experts to bring different sort of experiences in the workplace. And that was the beginning of seeing that the workplace was now embracing hospitality experience, retail experience, residential experience. So not wanting to be a firm that does the same thing over and over again, but bring different expertise to really challenge that experience overall. So we started that 9 years ago, and everybody was saying, I don't think there's a market for this. People will still want to buy from traditional practices. Great idea, but maybe not yet, not ready. And we started regardless of whatever the market told us, and landed our first big tech project in the client 9 months into starting the business. And people asked, why do you think that was the case? And I think it was just really for something different, really to take the risk with teams that were trying to do something different. That was really our starting point. And we sort of, went ahead, delivered the project. But what we learned from the inception of our business was that in the beginning, maybe we were trying to handle 30% of the work with 70% of all the outsourced expertise. And we realized along the way that we needed to maybe absorb some of that responsibility within our teams and within the region So I would say sort of last year was a very big pivoting moment for us where we start to look at the talent that we had within our teams to carry the weight of these projects, to have that standardization, systems, culture within our teams, and really build a network would allow us to kind of use the talent within our region to really scale our projects and continue with our collective expertise as well. And I think that's been the biggest shift for us.
So during the week when we were meeting some people, and I remember in one of the meetings, someone made a comment that you're not just providing a service to a client, this building, that you are actually providing a service to the landlord. You're providing a service to the executives, to the employees, the employer in general. How do you approach that? Because it really is a multi-tier thing. And I'll make it even more complex. You've actually got multiple countries with different ways of thinking about things. So how do you juggle all of that to keep on going? I mean, you've passed the 7-year mark where the great majority of companies fail. It's still growing. What's the formula?
Wow, that's a highly time-related question. I'll try to unpack that one by one. We start with understanding what are the clients' challenges in terms of their business. And you see business now reorganizing, restructuring as though it's the DAU is to restructure and get to a level of efficiency. It's almost like that's expected. Now, in a state that what's always changing, they also need to be forward thinking. And our job is really to start with them to say, what are the gaps in your businesses today in terms of the people behavior? Is the space supporting your ambition? And if it's not, then how do we help you rethink your environment that will support the culture and the people? So we really start from the position of our corporate tenants and unpack that story. And as I say, in the real estate world, there's two sides of the story, right? There's the financial story. Does do the numbers stack up? And when the numbers stack up, which they have to, because that's what's needed, then the other question that's the most important is when we can make those numbers stack up and have the CapEx and the business case approved, how are we going to impact the people in the organization to move forward and achieve the business goals? Now, that's the intangible part that I say we do really well in trying to bring it all together, because that's where you get the best of the physical environment, the people, and what the organization is pivoting and moving forward to. Now, once we have that clarity, then it becomes clearer whether the current premises is the right place. Is it the right footprint? Is it the right building? Is it the right neighborhood to support the talent pool that you want? And then we obviously start to look at the cascading neighborhoods and how that supports that wider ecosystem. We talk about work-life balance. We talk about hybrid work. And I think what people want is choice. Choice not just in the work and the place that they go to work at, but it's all the coming to work at my lunchtime, at my coffee break time, post-work time. How does that sort of wrap around my lifestyle? And that's really the employee perspective. And then when we pivot and look at the employer's perspective, of course, there's a desire for people to come together, right? Because we know that that's where the greatest unplanned ideas happen. If you build it, you build rituals in that people know when they come back to have the best meaningful experience. I think that's where you kind of bring the employee organization patterns of work coming together in a much more meaningful fashion. And I think the last perspective is obviously the landlord, right? So what does it mean for the landlord? What is the offering? What is the proposition? And particularly in a place like, I would say, the different markets. Let's talk about Singapore, Thailand, Philippines. I'll start with the Philippines. That's where we are right now in Metro Manila. People are now thinking about, okay, do we move further south, further north? Where is the talent pool going to be? What will we attract those kinds of talent pool for the kind of work that we're going to do? Are we going to continue to grow our singular campus? Are we going to split it? And all that's not so much based on the building infrastructure as opposed to the talent pool that we're after. And if we move back to think about the Thailand market, it's an interesting time because occupancy is at its lowest. We've got one of the biggest development, one Bangkok, that's pushing, people to rethink what corporate mixed-use development looks like. So as companies start to move there, Tier C, Tier B tenants are saying, for the same price, I rather upgrade. And Singapore, as you know, rental rates will continue to be sky high. And I think that, again, has so much opportunities because people are thinking about, employers are thinking about, what is the value now of my office? What is it going to do to support my business? And beyond just how many seats for my people, the future thinking organizations are thinking about, what does it mean for our clients? Are they going to be coming in? What experience are we going to bring when they come to our home, as opposed to renting a generic sort of ballroom somewhere, which doesn't say anything about the organization and the people that you're going to be working with.
So it's much more than just design, right?
Absolutely. Design is obviously, it's a given that it has to represent the organization's brand, the functionality of the space. And I think what's different now in strategy and design is how we bring organizations and their people along that journey with us. I think that if you want to have your employees feel proud about your space, feel that they own the space, they are going to activate the things that you think was going to work for them. But then how do we bring leaders and their teams along the journey to say, why are we doing it this way? What were the data points that we collected from different activities? From what was the vision of the leaders? What was the survey telling us, right? What were the focus groups telling us in terms of their preference of co-working with interdepartments? And if you tell those stories back, you're essentially telling the stories that came from your people and how the design is now responding to that. And I think that's incredibly powerful to start to set the stage for what makes for the organization.
So how do you find companies reacting to that? I've seen the tenders that have come out and they read design, and there's no thought of impact at the various levels in the organization. Do you see that as a role to teach, to help them understand? How are they embracing that? Do they embrace it? The idea that I've got to take a step back. I've got to think about the impact on employer, the landlord, the employee. Why are we doing what we're doing? It's not just to make it a pretty place.
So if I kind of take my experience back to 12 years ago when I was doing this, 3,000 to 5,000 facility for a financial institution, the process back then was we had an idea of what 3,000 to 5,000 employees are going to be, how they're going to be working together. So we're going to start to talk to all the leaders from 5 different buildings of what that's like. And then we're going to design towards that. But we're having this conversation in silos, right? So every leader would obviously want to look after what their best, expectations are. And so we round robin this process for 8 months, moving this department out, moving this department down, moving this department in the middle. And 8 months, 12 months into the project, we're still making those changes. So I kind of then sort of fast forward that 10 years and working with a Singapore organization with, again, 3,000 employees coming together from 4 different locations. And the vision was that we're going to co-create this project so that this one bank expectation and way of thinking, because the businesses really should be cross-selling, working together a lot more effectively so that the front, middle, and back offices are a lot more intertwined. All right. And I take that process. What used to take us 8 months to develop a strategy for the building, we did that in 3 days. 3 days with 12 leaders from the board level, 80 people representing 3,000 people from the bank. It was probably the hardest workshop I've ever had to run. But that's the only time when 80 people can tell you how the bank works intricately, right? Where is it important where the collisions happen? What are the client experience going to be? What is my learning environment going to be? How does my innovation impact employees as well as clients? What is the central cafe space? How important is that for us as well as for the clients? And how do we shape that with 80 people? Is where we might have a strategy and say, we think it's going to work like this. But if you ask anybody, they'll think that there's a better way around it, right, Ed? But when we put it to the test and then 80 people on debate, because everybody wants the best floor, the best views, and in moving things around live and everybody can see it, and they land on something. Right there, we've achieved two things, right? We saved 8 months of reworking things. But more importantly, we've landed on what this one bank and working together means, because we've allowed people to have an idea of what working together as a broader team means, because everybody thinks we're special, but actually we're working for one organization with one goal. So that's the second thing that you uncover. And the third but most important one is in any project of that magnitude, it can be moving chairs and tables, as a leader once said, or we can be moving hearts and minds. And that's the difference between taking an opportunity of a project with a risk level of getting everybody involved, but the outcome of that.
Yeah. I was really surprised over the last few days. We listened to organizations talk about situations where they have multiple offices, firstly here in the Philippines, and they're now thinking, when you overlay return to office in that scenario, do we consolidate and come down to one office or two office? Do we expand out? And you see these people struggling with, what do we do and how do we even start? Is that something also that you see as incumbent on an organization like Paperspace to help with?
Absolutely. I think we're not married to any particular strategy, and it's not one that is that straightforward to say, what does your organization need? And we just sort of see what's in the market, right? It doesn't work that way either. There's going to be two parallel exercises that needs to happen at the strategy phase, which is both the demand and the supply research, right? So together with the property experts who know what's available in the marketplace, our job is to then say, when we bring down, say, a particular client with 3 particular locations, what is the needs basis of this unit? It's not just about where you are today, but actually what is the business that you're in? Are you in shared services? Are you actually a business that's supporting client facing? Or is it purely a BPO facility that's supporting the region? And once we understand that, and then we obviously have to lens it to the talent pool in the market, and then lens it against what's the supply and availability in the market, I think that's when you get to triangulate a much clearer strategy, because you can't have it all. And like it or not, in this current climate, almost having to kind of have all the ducks in order before a business case would go through is expected, because there's a lot more scrutiny in terms of the due diligence done against the business, against the landscape of the real estate, and obviously in contextual to talent pool as well.
So I'd like you to tell us a story. So I don't know if we're allowed to talk about who the company is, but there's an organization that we're working with in Singapore, a fintech, and they're growing, I guess exponentially is putting it mildly. They have no idea about what their office expectation is going to be in a year from now or 18 months from now. They've come to us and said, and this is in fact what our third interaction, I'll let you talk about that, the history of that. Provide us with something, but in a background where we can't tell you how many people we'll have. It could be double this, it could be triple this, and it could be in 6 months' time.
Right.
How do you approach that?
Our approach would have to align firstly with the workplace team's strategy and business. So in our third iteration of working with the client, We know that they're in hyper-growth, but like all other companies, they also have high scrutiny in terms of financing and justifying the ROI, all right? And if we have conversations with leaders or real estate leaders or business leaders, business takes priority, all right? That has to kind of chug along. And the variability of headcount growth is like crystal balling. Like we can look at the numbers in the projection and it never changes for 5 years. I've seen that. Or it might actually double for real. And there are many, many components to that. And we wish that would be crystallized and then we look at real estate. But that's never going to happen. Okay, that's fallacy because business will pivot to just stay ahead. And real estate, as slow as it is, will have to kind of catch the tranches to support them where possible. So in the case of this situation with a hyper-growth organization, what needed to happen needed to be the right opportunities at the right time. So what does that mean? It means a property is available at the right price, at the right time, with the right assets maybe. And then what would be, that would have to sort of answer the financial aspect of the project. So we maybe instead of spending X dollars with this property available at this particular time, our capex maybe would be reduced to 1/3 what it would have originally costed. All right. And then the timing would have to align with the lease ending here, the lease starting there. That would also have to align. And we all know how long these negotiations take. So that's hard. And then only thirdly, you say, okay, when these two are aligned, what if we don't take this opportunity and make it happen in a period of 5 months to just make it work from a sort of workplace perspective? Can we take over this environment, turn it around in 5 months, and be the best thing since whatever they could imagine? And that's what a hyper-growth company would have to do. They have to A, start with the financial justification, B, make the timing work, then C, can the workplace also double and triple its experience with a bit of a shoestring budget? And I think when you have that sort of mindset that this is what a project of this time will need, because maybe they'll be here for 2 years, maybe they'll be here for 5 years, and changing our mindset that like, oh, we're limited by budget and this and that. And I think all those conversations has no root in a time like now. You take the opportunity and you look at the existing assets of the new premises, you look at the assets of what you have, and it is up to us human beings to make the most out of it and create the best environment with the right attitude and mindset. That's the only difference, between wishing that you had more, because nobody has more in a time in the economic times like now.
Narita, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I hope people have gotten value from the discussion. From my perspective, I want to bring Narita back. One of the things I've learned in my year on board is that Narita, Sombat, all of the team have got great stories.